Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to view Power Rangers Dino Fury. Season 1, it seems, episode 18 through 22. So Netflix had, I guess, gone on to have 2 seasons of Dino Fury being put upon it. And I was like, oh, I thought there was only going to be 1 season, because I thought, like, you'd have the same cast only appear twice on a show. I guess now we have a cast show up 3 times. Alright, it's basically like Mighty Morphin all over again. I guess that's what they're kind of treating this as. But so, I would go on and state that Dino Fury isn't the worst Power Rangers season that I've seen. There are certain things where I have to go on and still watch, because I've completely just not really had much interest in like Wild Force or Jungle Fury or whatever the heck else that I haven't really gone into a lot of yet. But anyways, so I want to state that, yeah, Dino Fury isn't the worst season that I've seen. And I feel that the good thing about this season is that it has variety. It has variety, but it also is to have good visuals. And I think a lot of the stuff that it started to do in this season, I think there was some good ideas there. And then eventually you just kind of just slowly but surely just started to just become like your normal like Power Ranger show. But yeah, I think early on there were some good ideas. We of course had certain things that I was like waiting again for that we never went back to, and I was like crushed because of that. In all honesty, maybe a Pink Ranger who had some kind of side gig called Amelia that we never went back to was the one thing that I was just crushed about. Because I was like, you gave her the paranormal investigating job and you never went back to it. What the show? But once I was to kind of just be like, you know what, I can go on and just kind of watch any Power Ranger season. There's a lot of fish in the sea for that out there still right now. Like I was to be just like, okay, like I can just kind of watch like stuff that like I will probably just enjoy a little bit more. But so Dino Fury has variety. It has some good characters. I feel like when Izzy comes into the show, I was like, all right, like I really like Izzy. Here's the thing, though. I feel like they kind of forget that Zato and Amelia is to even be a character on the show, and we really focus on Ollie, Javi, or Izzy. And then when the Gold Ranger comes in, it's like, man, like he also kind of, for certain episodes, they kind of make him to be kind of the focus character, but then they kind of almost forget about him, and then like, okay, let's go back to Javi, Avi, or Izzy, and like, F anybody else. Who cares about anybody else? So yeah, so with that said, let's go on and let's just kind of talk about these episodes. So we have episode 18, and surprise, it's an Izzy-focused episode. We have to also kind of rope Ollie into this because, again, the core 3 characters that it seems they are to be used in full effect. So we have Izzy that is to have an issue with electronics, and it seems that she is to really be doing poorly in this class, which I'm like, what age is she? Like, what school is she going to? Is this like engineering class that she's going into? Is this college? Like, where are we? But so Izzy is not doing so well. She's kind of almost like flunking this class, it seems. And so Ollie has to go on and like try to explain this all to her so she can understand it more. To where by the end of this season, we end up getting like a whole Secret Santa gift thing episode by the end of this, which is to kind of cater to like the continuity of that episode. Which I was like, all right, like so by the last season, that of course is to be like this Christmas themed episode. In all honesty, I think there was some good ideas in that episode. I like that they still had the same continuity of casting Santa Claus from like the other, like the Ninja Steels and all those other Dino charge things. Like how it seems like they're still doing the same Santa Claus. I'm like, good. So like they don't go on and just kind of recast another Santa Claus. So anyways, I thought that was great for them. I think there was to be in that last episode, like that whole drawing idea, that sketchbook thing. I was like, all right, that gets me so close to those other kind of idea Power Rangers episodes that I really liked. Like Drawn into Danger, I think was like a really fun like Dino Thunder episode. Or that one, like, kind of, God, what was it? The RT Small or whatever, the one French Kimberly episode that I probably went on and did recently, where she was kind of in that cage and waving to herself. Like, I thought that was a pretty good artist idea thing with the whole color. Anyways, so, we have me also state that the Ion episode where he's to like we have like a whole episode that's kind of catered around dreams, which I thought was like, ooh, like that is kind of also reminding me of all those other like Power Rangers episodes where you'd have those characters that are like, yeah, I'm just having this really bad dream and I just can't shake it. And so like obviously like I feel that an episode based on a dream is to never get old. I think you can keep doing that a million times and I will still like a Power Rangers episode that deals with someone's dreams, because technically in dreams you can kind of do whatever, and then the person will wake up and you'll be like, oh, like that was just a dream sequence the whole time. Oh man, like you could write a whole entire episode that is to just be like that, and then the person could like wake up by the end of it and be like, oh, that was a whole dream. Oh man, kind of like the Adam Dream episode, that of course was actually to be still to this day like my favorite like Power Rangers episode. The whole monster one, that was so great. So, with that said, yeah, I think that goes on to cover quite a bit of the stuff of... there were some episodes that I would probably want to complain about. Especially the whole body swapping episode, where I was like, wait a minute, like, we have the pink and we have the Red Ranger that are obviously like should be gender swapping here, and they aren't, and that was my biggest complaint. I was like, why aren't they gender swapping? Do they not have a costume for... That would be my complaint. Why, like, that just seemed kind of cheap on the Power Rangers end, where, like, obviously, like, the Blue and the Black Ranger, like, it doesn't matter because, like, really, why should it? But yeah, but the pink and the red should have gender swapped and they didn't. And there was obviously on that Christmas episode where they would just kind of dump out all of the postcards or the the cards and stuff all over the ground from all the fans. And obviously there were certain things of those where they were blank. You could tell. Like postcards that were blank on one side. But again, recently I went on to watch Paul, who of course was Bulk from the original Mighty Morphin, as well as a number of other seasons. And he went on to talk about like the countdown episode and In Space, and how he would talk about the foam, and how if kind of like the foam would kind of like fall wrong, they would have to kind of reshoot the whole thing over again, simply because how of a piece of a foam would kind of reveal like, oh, this is fake, and so they would have to shoot the whole thing over again because of a stupid piece of foam. But that's what happens when you'd accidentally like kick some prop or something, and it would reveal, oh no, so you'd have to start the whole bit over again. Kind of like in Avengers when we'd have Mark Ruffalo, who is to have that kind of that little like tray thing that keeps falling over, and in the blooper reel he's like, I'll get it guys, I'll get it, and it keeps falling, and he's like, oh no, I'll get it. It's anyways, so yeah, now that I've technically talked about these episodes, let's go on and let's just get into them for whatever I can just remember at this point. These, of course, there's 5 episodes. I'm probably going to get into way too much detail about them, so I do apologize for possibly the length of the video, but also talking way too much about this. So, with that said, let's just go on to that double 5 time territory. And for those of you that have gone on to see Power Rangers reviews, I'm drastically specific, where it's like, oh my god, I know who Izzy's girlfriend's name is exactly. I'm going to try as much as possible to pull back from that. And plus also with these being 5 episodes, I'm going to try as much as possible to kind of quickly get this all out. So, with that said, let's go on and let's get into spoiler time. Spoiler time, but it's about that time we get to spoil these episodes. So, in the beginning of episode 18, we have Izzy, who is kind of walking away from her girlfriend. I'm like, oh, so Izzy has a girlfriend? Like, I don't know if they stated that early on in some part of Dino Thunder, and I just kind of completely forgotten about it, because I was like, oh, like, I guess that really does help us really understand why Izzy specifically was to take that green skirt and just kind of toss it aside, I guess. Like, to me, like, I was just like, meh, like, whatever. Like a ranger that doesn't want to go on and wear a skirt. Like, I don't think they should have worn skirts anyways, but that's just me. Because I thought that was kind of a stupid, like, old-fashioned kind of Power Rangers thing. It kind of feels like wearing underwear outside of your pants like Superman and Batman used to do for years, till they finally got rid of that. I feel that at some point, the whole skirt wearing thing should be just like the underwear outside the pants thing. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. But so anyways, we have Izzy going on and talking to her girlfriend, and so Izzy's girlfriend is talking about Mr. or Mrs. Watson, who is to want Izzy to retake this test, and Izzy's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go on and do that. And so we have Izzy, who bumps into the rest of the Rangers, and so we, of course, have when they get together, we all of a sudden have the communicator going off, or the comm going off, it seems, instead of calling it a communicator. And so we have Solon that is to go on and tell the Rangers that they need to make their way to the park, and that, of course, is when they meet Carlos Garcia. So it seems when they go to the park, they find out that a number of people have all kind of passed out. They've all just taken a dirt nap, literally, because they're all just kind of flat on the ground. So we have all of a sudden even Garcia like succumb to this mechanism and drop to the ground, and they're like, okay, like, so why did he fall asleep now? So we all of a sudden have Solon, who's calling the Rangers again on their comms, and to tell them, it's like, well, hey, like, There is to be a Sporix monster spotted at this chemical plant. And so half the Rangers go on and they leave, and then the other half are to kind of stay at the park to try to figure out what is going on. So we go on, and I believe we have Izzy, who figures out that there is to be some unusual beam-like thing that is to have this kind of motion sensor thing on it. So we have this little like uh like contraption like thing, and for when you are to kind of move past it, it goes on to hit this blast of this sleep spell, so you fall over and you're just like, no, I can't obviously stay awake. Because I guess we were to go on and have these like sleepy cuffs, and I guess Void Knight goes on, it's like, well, hey, I'm gonna make like a sleep contraption for any time anybody's to walk by it, like people fall asleep. So for some odd reason, we have our Rangers that keep calling this thing a beam for some goofy reason. This little contraption thing that is to kind of put out this sleeping, knocking out agent. So we come to find out that the Rangers that went to the chemical plant, there was nothing there. So the Rangers realizes that the whole reason why they were to really be there is to possibly get hit by this beam. And so luckily Ollie was to be able to kind of dismantle it easily. Just like, oh yeah, just take this one part out and like it'll stop working. So we have Izzy that is calling on the comm for the rest of the Rangers. And so Ollie's like, well yeah, like it should just be really easy to figure out how to dismantle this thing. So Ollie goes on and explains this to Izzy, and Izzy's like, how, what now? He wanted me to do the what now? And so we have Izzy that I think is just like, okay, like the blue thing, like, all right, I should just take the blue thing completely out, and like that should work, right? So Izzy takes this thing out, and all of a sudden both the black and the gold Ranger get hit by this machine, and they both get knocked out. But then the rest of the people who were asleep had awoken. And so we go on to then have, of course, the rest of the Rangers like get back to the park and like, well, hey, like what happened here? And so like Izzy like explains like, well, like, hey, like you explained this to me, but I couldn't figure it out. So she ends up just like stating what she did, and Ollie's like, no, that wasn't the thing you were supposed to do. So both Ion and both Javi are to be at Dino Henge, and so they're taking a nap until they can kind of figure out how to like reverse how to do this. So Ollie had to come up with a way to kind of like reverse this machine and have it kind of wake them up. So that's how they kind of cure the other Rangers. So we go on to have the Rangers that need to go on and fight off a monster called Stone Rad. Come to find out, this Stone Rad has brothers and sisters, it seems, oddly enough, that look just like it. And so we come to find out that Stone Rad gets like quickly wiped out by the Rangers, because of course we have more monsters to come here. So we just have the Dino Rangers that take out their sabers, and they end up doing this Dino Fury strike with their sabers, wiping out Stone Rad. And so now back at Area 62, we have Void Knight, who is going on and talking to both Stone Sad and Stone Mad, and like concocting this plan of like, well, hey, like since my little beam didn't work before, then we now have Void Knight who's like, well, ha ha ha, like I'm gonna come up with the Mega Sleep Bomb, and it's gonna be on a timer, and it's gonna wipe out the whole town. And so we're just like, okay, so like if something doesn't work, just build a bigger thing of it. Like, how many times have we seen that miserably fail? Look at Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. He's just like, well, like, I couldn't have miscalculated. Like, I was right, wasn't I? And then we would have him just build, like, this bigger machine and, like, tritium in a palm of my hand. And yeah, didn't work out so well. So, Void Knight, you're just gonna be on to another mistake. One thing I gotta say, though, when Void Knight at some point was, like, seemingly defeated in this show, and you just kind of see his, like, wrecked helmet, I'm like, man, if only I would have just used that as a thumbnail, because that is a freaking awesome looking visual. But I didn't go with it. I just went with the other visual because I was like, meh, like I'll just use that. So we come to find the Rangers are to find out that there's be another threat out there. So we come to find the Rangers that morph, and so they're fighting off henchmen, and they of course have 5 minutes before this Mega Sleep Bomb goes off. And so Ollie is to want to go on and take care of it first, but then he ends up getting knocked out by another beam that is off in the distance, and he doesn't realize it's there. So we have Ollie that turns to Izzy, and he's like, well, like, you're our only hope, Izzy, because we had Solon that was to tell Ollie, it's like, well, hey, like, since Izzy is having problems with figuring out, like, electronics and stuff like that, how about we go on and you, like, teach her how this thing works, and, like, we can just kind of, like, help her just try to figure this out. And so it rests solely on Izzy's shoulders as Ollie is going to take a dirt nap. So, again, because he's outside. So Izzy is to go on and try to figure out, like, okay, like, I'm going to put a coat in front of this sensor so that way the beam won't hit me with its knockout spell or whatever. So Izzy is kind of working on this machine while, of course, the Rangers are to have to go on and Megazord it up to fight against Stone Sad or Stone Mad. So we have Izzy, who, of course, because if there's other episodes, obviously, like, Izzy figured something out just in time. She had to go on and, like, really, like, figure out how to, like, fix and adjust this, but she figures it out. So we have the Mosa Mega Zord battle mode, and we also have the pink, the black, and the red Dino Megazord. So, like, I want to assume that it is to probably be the like the blazing Zord. So, like, I want to say that it's like the Megazord, but it's not. Like, it's to be like a weird, odd, like, incomplete concoction of Zords together, and then it's to also have, like, the blazing thing attached to it also. So it's very odd and very weird. Because only the pink, black, and red Ranger are in the Megazord. So, with that said, we have the blazing Mega Strike, then we have the Harpoon Strike, then we have all of a sudden that both Sad and Mad stone monsters, they combine into a bigger monster, and I was like, oh my god, this looks awesome. I like that idea of, like, a even bigger monster, because it also kind of reminds me of that one time that all of the Zords like had to go on and like fight off like the one like Evox monster, which I thought was like pretty cool. But so we have the Rangers are like, oh my god, what can we do now? Like, well, since they combine together, let's combine together. So they came into being the Ultra Zord, and I was like, all right. So we have, after like a combination of attacks, we then have to go on and like whip out the end all be all saber thing, like the Ultra Zord like saber thing, and kind of wipe him out as per usual. And so after that, after wiping out Megazord, Izzy figures out how to work that whole thing to save the world, and bravo to everybody. Oh, we also had Ollie that is just stated to go, hey, that like this machine, it could be dangerous, like let's kind of take it with us. And I was like, all right, that's actually smart writing. So the next thing we see is that Izzy is to do way better on her next test, to the point of her even getting an A. So I'm like, well, of course we have to do that. So the next thing we see is that all of a sudden we have Pop Pop that is doing this leaf blower. If you don't know who Pop Pop is, that of course is Ed Jones, Amelia's relative of sorts. Grandfather? Let's go with grandfather. I'm also still waiting for when they're going to go on and give me Sky's dad at some point, because we're getting pretty close to 2025 is kind of the start of SPD, so I'm kind of worried when that's going to happen. Is that going to happen in the third season of is that going to be in Cosmic Fury? I'm hoping. I'm waiting. I'm pining away. So, but anyways, Pop Pop is to have a leaf blower, and we have him on this ladder, and he's kind of like, he's messing up with this ladder, and he's kind of, whoa, all right. Like, so that is to be like the most unsafe ladder that you can possibly be on. I would know, because of course I would go on and do jobs that, of course, I would actually have a fear of heights. It's very weird and unusual, but after time, like, I would need to go on all these like ridiculous ladders that eventually I would get freaking hurt by doing them, because that's all they had, and it was the crappiest thing ever. But anyways, so we have a point where, bizarrely, like, the leaf blower that Pop Pop has doesn't work. And so we have Izzy that's like, well, I think I can fix this. And so it's like, oh, so Izzy's going to be like the fix-it ranger. Okay. Like, I don't want to say like the fix-it chick or whatever, because I you know, and I want to be nice about it. So next up, we go into the following episode, and that whole purple beard thing was the goofiest story that I've ever heard out of just this season. Just all of a sudden we have this purple beard pirate character that is to possibly have some treasure chest like thing that could connect to the Power Rangers, and I'm like, you have got to be freaking kidding me. Like, a caveman zombie has nothing to do, or has nothing on a pirate Power Rangers chest, and I'm just like, what is this? I did like the little puzzle piece thing, but still, I have problems. So we have for Bust Blast, also, speaking of Bloodbath, we had Jane. I recently saw her in the movie Megan. Kira. And I was like, all right, like, I like, good, she's getting other work. Good for her. So I at least wanted to state that. So, come to find out, Jay Borg is interviewing a woman called Beatrice Cotton. And I am to be like, okay, like, why? And then I realized that at some point this character will have actual importance. So I'm like, okay, so like it's not like a wasted like interview, but so we go on here to have after the interview that we all of a sudden have Beatrice who's to kind of come into her getting into like an accident where she almost falls. Ed Jones goes out of his way, Pop, to save Beatrice as she falls, and they kind of fall into this almost like embrace like moment. So Beatrice is like, "Oh, sir, you just saved my life," and he's like, "Well, I guess I technically did." So we all of a sudden have the two of them go into possibly having a date with one another. So I was like, all right, like this seems kind of cool. Like I can dig this. So we then go on and have Void Knight that of course is setting up his next monster at Area 62 with Bone Switch, which visually cool looking monster. But then eventually, once I heard like, okay, like he's just a body swapping monster, I was like, okay. So, so we come to find out that the Bone Switch is to immediately switch between both Mucus and Slifer, which Slifer hated being in Mucus's body because it's like, oh no, I'm basically a booger. And Slifer was like, oh yeah, I'm loving this. Or Mucus as Slifer was like, yeah, I'm loving this. I have this wand. It's great. And then they swap them back. And so Slifer has to go on to like, because he was in Mucus's body, he's like, man, I need to take like 10 showers. So we come to find out that Purple Beard, freaking goofiest name as all get out. We have to go on and realize that it's a chase to find these talismans. And so Bone switches to try to find these talismans, and when he goes to a place to try to look for them, they're not there. So we then go on and have the Power Rangers who are fighting off against Bone Switch to like, okay, like what was he doing in here? We have the henchmen come in, and so then we have Bone Switch that switches out the Rangers, and so now the Pink and the Red Ranger switch places. We have the Blue and the Black who switch places, and the Gold and the Green, they don't go on and they switch because of course they weren't there at the time that like body switching could happen. We have the voices that also switch to kind of tell us who is who, so I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. But then also I'm like, that dubbing better be like the best it can possibly be. So we come to find out that the Gold Ranger is to get into his Electro battle armor, which I'm like, okay, I like how this looks. So when eventually we have to find out that the Rangers, who are now in different bodies, they have to go on and they have to exchange morphers. And so we come to find that even when the Red and the Pink Ranger have to swap morphers, when they morph, it don't look right. But either way. So we have the Rangers that are to have all their keys, because every single one of them have individual keys that they have kind of gone on to have their own kind of armor, whatever extra thing, like the blazing key or the invisible key or the speed key or all those kind of goofy things that each one of these characters have. We come to find that they are to combine all the keys together to this like boost blast. So We then go on to have the Rangers go in to the Megazord mode. So, because we have to go on and kind of figure out how the Rangers can go back to their normal selves. So, we have the Megazord fight out, and when the Megazord uses its drill attack on Bone Switch's horns, we come to find out that that goes on to correct every body swap that is to have happened, even when the Gold Ranger was to switch with a pigeon, which I immediately was to say why, because it wasn't funny. We even had the Gold Ranger who was like holding onto this worm, and he was like, "Oh, puh." And we had like a pigeon that was kind of flying off, and it was stating like what its armor was, but he was like, "Well, pigeon." God, that was so stupid. So, how to go on and wrap up this monster? We wrap it up by just having the Mosazord. We just have like that just kind of coming out of the water and just grabbing and biting into that monster, and that kind of wraps it up for this week. So we have Void Knight was to take the Sporex and just be like, well, hey, like, I realized, yes, monster, that you, of course, were to fail, but, like, this Sporex will come into good use. So, we then push on, and so we... Oh, did I even go on and at all talk about the date? I don't really think I did. So, yeah, we had Ed who goes on, or Ed, yeah, we had Jones who goes on to date with Beatrice, and at first Amelia was gonna do the kind of the cliche-ish thing, and she was gonna go on and kind of tell Ed what to say throughout the whole entire date, but at some point Ed kind of drops his earpiece in the cup, and so he goes on and exchanges his clothes. And so Amelia, who is to actually be Zato, is to tell Ed, hey man, just be yourself. Just be who you are. So when Ed goes to Beatrice and is to start to talk to her, we have Beatrice is like, oh my god, I know all those stains that are on your clothes. And then like Beatrice doesn't call him out as being a slob. She's like, no. Like, I used to work at a garage shop myself, so yeah, I know those kind of things. And so it's like, So by the end of the episode, we again still have Pop Pop, who is seemingly winning over Beatrice by uncovering the puzzle pieces from Purple Beard, and it is to all lead to this one location, and they also find out that there's to be Dino keys attached to this whole map thing. So like, oh my god, like we could have never known that this Purple Beard at some point could tie into the Power Rangers. Isn't that great? Like, as if Purple Beard might have been a Power Ranger himself. So yeah, so anyways, we then go on into the following episode. So we all of a sudden have Ion, who is having this dream, because they kind of set that up already, that he's sleeping. And so yeah, so the dream, of course, was a flashback, so we've already technically seen this for the most point, where we would have the Power Rangers that Ion and Zato had previously been with, because I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? We have these characters with these different voices, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's the prior Power Rangers. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. So Ion and Zato are going on to find out that his Power Rangers from prior are to go on and make a Megazord so powerful that it almost destroys their planet, Ravcon. And so they had come into an Ultrazord that was way too powerful, and so that leads to the stuff that happened with Ion when he kind of first came into being. So Ion is to bump into Zato as he wakes up. So both of them again are kind of rethinking or having these nightmares about of course same thing. And so like it's basically like a teammate nightmare situation. So we then go on to, speaking of dreams, we have Area 62 where Mucus is going on and be like, man, what is that Sporex machine? Like, what is it about? And so Mucus is like, well, I gotta push this lever and I gotta figure out what this is. And so when she goes on to press the lever, Void Knight runs out and is like, oh my god, like, you hit the Sporex machine, and now, like, you're gonna be the coolest person in the world. And so he walks off, and I'm like, this has to be a dream, because Sporex, because Void Knight going on and saying that Mucus is cool, like, no. So all of a sudden we have Mucus who's just kind of like doing all this like shimmying and dancing and all this stuff as if this is some like disco tech now. And I'm like, this has got to be some goofy thing going on. So we have Slythe, I believe it's Slythe that goes on to tell Mucus like, hey, like, wake up, like, hey, you're kind of pressing up against this Sporex machine, and like Void Knight's gonna get upset if you do that. So we go on and have at some point the Rangers needing to investigate where these keys could be. And so what happens is that Zato is to have this one key where they can go on and sense where things are. So Zato does this key, and it's to find this treasure chest. And so they find out that these keys are to be the light and shadow keys, and that also they have the cosmic key. So the light and the shadow key, of course, is to be kind of the usual things, but then the cosmic key can teleport them anywhere. So I'm like, oh, okay, so when you think about it, you had the one gadget for all those other Power Ranger seasons where we could have the Power Rangers kind of teleport wherever, and with this one gadget. So I guess I'm assuming the cosmic key is going to be their equivalent to maybe doing some time travel, or maybe some place travel. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get into further seasons of this. So we have Dr. Akana, that of course is Ollie's mother, and so she is realizing that with these statues that they can possibly tap into the morphing grid. And also we have the Rangers realize that these are to be kind of battle mode keys, but they have to also go on and locate the Zords that are attached to some of these keys. So we have Solon that realizes that the light and the shadow Zord are located on Nibiru, or Nibiru. And so Zato is like, oh, okay, well, like, how about we just kind of use the cosmic key and we teleport to this planet. So Zato goes in there first and is to all of a sudden realize that he has found like his former teammates, and they're all morphed, of course, because why would you go on and have Rafcon people that are unmorphed because body doubles and whatever, and you would have to cast those characters. So Zato all of a sudden finds out that all these Rangers are going to want to kill him. And so he's like, oh, no, 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 don't fight me. Like, hey, I'm friends. Like, don't you know who I am? And we all of a sudden find out that, like, Zato is to have, like, his whole kind of come in. So, like, Zato is going on and kind of left to, like, fight by himself. So we, of course, have Ion that's like, oh my god, like, we need to kind of use his cosmic key again to get back there, and yeah, like, it doesn't work again. It doesn't work twice. So they realize that they need to kind of charge up this key to get to this certain location. So come to find out, when they talk to Dr. Akana, they realize that it all comes down to the energy conductor, and that reveals the whole morphing grid thing. But so Void Knight is also realizing, like, well, hey, like, I can use the whole morphing grid thing. I can use that to power my machine and get my Void Queen. I can get her to come back to me. So we go on to find out that the Akana capacitor is to overload, and so, like, that's the one gadget that Void Knight will eventually need. So when Akana does go on and fix it, she now has to kind of be, like, out and about in the public and is talking about her capacitor, and so the Rangers have to go on and, like, start to work with Akana to try and kind of goad out Void Knight. And so at some point in this episode, we have Akana, Dr. Akana, find out that Ali is to actually be one of the Power Rangers, because that secret ends up getting out fairly easily when all the Rangers start to lose all their power. So we have Ragul, who is to kind of be the person that kind of resurrects people. He ends up bringing back Boom Tower, which of course is to be that kind of cannon-like monster that ended up getting, like, wiped out. Like, I was thinking of, like, man, if Boom Tower could have just stayed, like, he was kind of like a Goldar kind of character. But so, yeah, they ended up getting rid of him. So we have Ion figure out how to make it work, where he is to have attached this gadget to then try to figure out how to fuse himself and this key together to charge it up again. So Ion goes off to get to Zato, and both of them are going on to fight the Power Rangers, their former teammates, and they start to realize that more and more that these characters are just to repeat these same things over and over and over again, and it honestly gets pretty annoying. But I'm like, ooh, evil Power Rangers, great. So we have Void Knight that goes on to tell Boom Tower, now that he's resurrected, that Void Knight has gone on to improve Boom Tower's cannonballs. So we have Boom Tower go out there. The Rangers try to seek Boom Tower to try and defeat him, and he unleashes these cannonballs, and like, okay, like, that's pretty dumb. And so all of a sudden we start to have the Rangers who start, like, getting like keys together and so on and so forth, and all of a sudden they get blasted. And like, okay, what the heck is going on? Come to find out, Boom Tower is to unleash this kind of gas to where every time there's some kind of like spark or some kind of thing that they try to do, a explosive goes off. The Rangers don't understand that, so we have Ollie that calls Solon and is to try to desperately ask, like, well, hey, like, if you can get Zato or if you can get Ion, like, back, like, we'd really appreciate it. So we have Ion and we have Zato, and so Ion finally figures that out. If they are to go on here and fight against these Rangers and be fighting a losing battle, they need to like rethink something and do something different. So Ion's like, well, hey, if they know about our bad memories, maybe they remember our good memories too. So Ion is to start seeing this whole oath thing, and the Rangers respond to it, and they immediately put their hands in together, and then the Power Rangers go away and find out that some guardian of Nimuro is to appear, or Nibiru is to appear, and like, oh yeah, I was to use these nightmares as a way to kind of defend my planet, but it seems like you guys are good and noble and whatever, so I realized that. So we have Solon that goes on to mention to message Zato and say like, hey, you need to get back here. Solon gets back, and so now Ion is to get to the Zords and have them come back with him, and so all that works out. So we have the Rangers that come back, so we have them come to find out that this is to be explosive gas that is to be all surrounding around them. So when Ion comes back, he is to morph, and he goes into the shadow battle armor, and he is to make it so that this gas just goes into this black hole, and so that defeats that. So then we have to go on and go into the Megazords of things. So we have the Moses Shadow Megazord, and we have the Dino Fury Megazord Warrior formation. So we have the Mega Fury Saber, and that goes on to kind of like be the end all be all. And oftentimes we'll have them kind of call for this Saber thing, even though certain Zords won't actually have that actual like Saber that comes out. Maybe it'll be a blaster, kind of like the Mosa Zord has. But anyways, so we have Void Knight that goes on to steal the Doctor's equipment. So we have Void Knight that goes and is trying to tap into the morphing grid. And so we have Boom Tower that is not actually dead after that Saber attack. He just kind of comes back and is like, well, hey, like I lost again. So we have to go on and now have Dr. Akana that is to meet up with Solon at Dino Henge, and so they're talking about the capacitor. So we have Rigul, Boom Tower, Void Knight, and Mucus and Slither, and they go on to grab the Doctor, and they grab her and put sleeping cuffs on her, and they take her to the Dark Dimension. Because since Void Knight has what he needs from her, we have them go off to go to the Dark Dimension. we have Zato that goes into his T-Rex Cosmic Megazord and goes into the Dark Dimension. So we go and have the rest of the Power Rangers who are to try to use their combined Fury attacks. But we have them all get sleepy cuffed, all but the Blue Ranger. So we go back now to the Megazord, and so he, of course, is to use the Fury Saber and is to use the Cosmic Gateway on the Ragul, and we then have Zato that tries to get after Akana, and we have both Mucus and both Slifer like, well, hey, what about us? And Zato's like, yeah, what about you? I'm like, I don't care. So we have the Dino Dagger that ends up getting used against the Sleepy Cuffs. So, wait, I'm kind of really jumping ahead of myself here. So we go in and now have Void Knight. He, of course, is to use this machine to bring back his wife, and like this is very much like Mr. Freeze. So he goes on and he is to use all the Rangers that were in these sleepy cuffs and also the morphing grid to try to bring back his wife. And we have the Blue Ranger that's with Akana, who is just kind of like watching on. And they're like, man, like there's nothing we can do. So we have Ollie that figures out that he can go on and just kind of destroy all of the dinosaur statues, and that will stop this thing from happening. So that's what Ollie desperately does. And once they do that, they realize that that kind of destroys the morphing grid. And even when Zato does come back, the Void Knight just quickly like puts him to sleep after Zato is to kind of attack him with this this Dino Dagger. So we have Ollie that while he is destroying all these statues, we had Akana that was to take this dagger and was to toss this dagger and hit this machine to then have Void Knight be scrambling like, oh my god, oh my god. So after we go on to have Void Knight that seems to be defeated, because we of course have this machine be like the one thing that Void Knight like desperately needed to have to revive his bride. We go on to then have the Green Morphin Master come in and restore Dino Henge, as well as restoring the Dinomorphers and everything like that for the Power Rangers. And because the Morphin Masters is like, well, hey, you guys still have a season to do here. So the next episode we go on to, I believe, is this is the Christmas episode, so we're finishing up here. Wow. This is the last episode, really? And I'm an hour deep? I've covered 5 episodes. There must have been a huge chunk of stuff where I didn't even cover it. Or maybe these episodes are way easier to do than I know or realize. But anyways, moving on. So, we now have Javi, that is to have his keyboard. And so I'm like, is this the same keyboard where he had to like spend like a lot of money to get, like he really like saved up his money to get this one keyboard? Now it's missing a key for some goofy reason. So, because of course this is the Christmas episode. So we even have Izzy, who's to mention to Javi, it's like, hey, you know your keyboard is missing a key, right? And he's like, yeah, there's nothing I can do about that. So we have Izzy that is talking to Javi about them exchanging gifts. And so Javi is just like, well, yeah, but I don't know what to get Solon, because that's who I'm going to get as a Secret Santa. So we have Slyther, we have Mucus, who are kind of watching on as Javi is to, of course, be given this star for a tree, and as well as him getting money from all these people. So we have Javi that goes on to talk to Santa, as Santa's kind of done having people sit on his lap for today. And Javi is asking, it's like, well, hey, like, Santa, you're the perfect guy uh, to know what to do to, like, give gifts for people. Like, I don't know what really to get for this certain person. And so Santa goes on and, like, well, like, if it is pretty hard, like, why don't you just kind of come up with, like, a common thing that probably anybody would go on and like. So Santa starts talking about gloves. And so Javi's like, yeah, like I can get Solon gloves. And then he realizes that Solon has like claws, so that doesn't really work. So Santa is stated, it's like, well, hey, like I have this sketchbook where anything that I can go on and draw, like it'll become a real thing. So like Javi, how about you just kind of give me an idea and I'll sketch it and we'll just kind of have it become a real thing. And so Mucus and Javi are like, hey, we want that sketchbook. Yeah, let's get that thing. So we go back to Stonehenge. And so Javi, I guess, had decided to get gloves for Solon, even though that was a big mistake. So back at Stonehenge, we have them with a Christmas tree in Dinohenge. And so Javi's like, well, you know what could even be better? If we go on and we just slap a star on the top of that, because I luckily have one. So we have one of the Rangers that are to find that the Rangers have gotten a batch of blank postcards and cards of all kinds for the Rangers fan mail. I was like, okay, great. So we have them go on and talk about Christmas and Santa, and Ion is like, wait a minute, what's Santa? Like, what's Christmas? And then Zato's like, oh, you don't know about Christmas. Oh, okay, so now we have to go on and explain that to you. So we go on to have half the Rangers that have to leave because, of course, they are to have gotten a message from Santa. And so Santa's like, well, hey, like, I'm missing my sketchbook. And, like, can you help me, Rangers? And so the Rangers are like, well, of course we can. So half the Rangers leave, but then Javi is to be the last one left. And come to find out, Javi is to realize that there had been a message or a card being sent to him from Mucus. And so Mucus had pre-recorded this thing stating that there is a bomb inside Dinohenge and that it'll go off in 10 minutes. And so Javi's like, oh my god, because she had gone on Mucus to dismantle the comms and the teleporter so they can't leave this place. So we have a 10-minute countdown. I'm like, okay, this is just like the other 5-minute countdown thing that they had in prior episodes. So we have to have Javi that goes through every single present to figure out if it's a bomb or not. So the first thing that they find out is the Ollie Izzy gift, and I think that is to be like the electronics set or whatever, and they re-harp about that other episode. Then we have I think the Amelia Ollie gift, which was the ghost poncho, and I'd already talked about the sketchbook missing. So we have, of course, Zato, who cannot go on and get a hold of Solon, um, to get the Megazord working, because we of course have Slifer that is to go on and sketch the spider sketch monster, and we then have Zato, who's like, okay, I have to use my code. Zato was cool, which I was like, all right, that is a kind of funny thing. And so we have the Fusion Ultrazord that goes on to fight against this spider sketch monster. So now we also have the other presence between Zato and Ion, which is to be the ice cream that I guess was from their planet, and I guess it's like a rib between them or something. So we then have the Zato and Izzy gift, which I don't remember what the heck that was. That was the gym clothes from that whole previous episode about them being in the gym. So it's like, oh, so that's how they retie into that episode. So we have Solon that is to also talk about the missing key that Javi has in his keyboard, because that's what she went on and made for him. So Javi's like, oh my god, you made this key for me? That's great. So I guess she had like some 3D printer or something. So they're like, wait a minute, like, if none of these things are to be legitimately the bomb, it has to be the star that's on the tree, because that's also technically a gift that I was given by some hobo. So they go on and they toss the key into a place that could like hold Sporexes. So like, okay, I think like this can go on and like hold this explosion. So it holds it and it works out. So we then go back to the Megazord and we find out that they are to use the Fusion Ultra Strike, which goes on and then wipes out the spider stretch monster. So then we come to find that Slifer is to use a sketch to create a giant self, which I'm like, okay, what's the difference in a Slifer that becomes bigger and him sketching another version of himself? I don't quite get that. So we go on have the Megazord that goes on to fight this Slifer, and they of course ends up using the Dino Fury Saber again on this monster. So they end up wiping out of course both of these. So now we go back to Dino Henge, and we of course have, because Ion is consistently throughout this episode desperately talking about like, man, I can't wait till we get back so we can open presents. I mean, celebrate Christmas or something like, save Santa. So we have them all come back. They go back to Dino Henge. And so like, okay, yeah, like we should really start opening up all these gifts. And so we have them all open up the gifts, and they're all like gleeful about what all it is that they are either to get re-gift or whatever. And so by the end of this, we come to find that Javi is to realize that he should just go on and give a gift from the heart, which is to give Solon the book of all the words for the song. And so immediately we are to think that like Solon is going to be holding on to this book. No. Like the book just ends up getting like right back with the keyboard, and they all start singing the song together. So I'm like, what difference does it make? But so Javi gives Solon this gift, and that is to kind of be the wrapping up of this episode with all of them going on to kind of sing the song, and that finishes up the episode. So with that said, I think I'm going to finish this up so I can get out of here. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about all these episodes, how you felt about the wrapping of this this bit of episode. So I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.